Welcome to Upleveling, the podcast dedicated to building better leaders, smarter systems, and bigger results. Welcome back to another episode of the Upleveling podcast. I'm so glad that you're here. We're going to hop right into it today and talk about growing a business and the number of problems that you are going to need to solve. So I think that there sometimes is this notion of, hey, I'm going to start a business because I know about this topic that I'm selling or I'm doing. And so I'm going to get this in place and then I'm going to solve these issues and then we're going to be running and set to go. But what actually happens in business is you do solve those problems and you grow and you start to have more problems and bigger problems or problems that are more valuable for you to solve, and they don't go away. The issue with all of this is really that you have to have a strong mindset in business to be a business owner and be successful. And the reason is there are lots of days where you are just going to feel really beat down, and you have to be able to work through that. So I want you to start thinking of yourself not necessarily as the CEO, but you are the chief problem solver. And if you've ever felt like, oh my gosh, I just have problem after problem after problem, welcome to business. That is not going to go away. So you have to learn how to problem solve. I'm going to show you today a tip of how you can start to reframe this and become more successful. And I think the thing is, we think that once we step into the CEO role, that we get to step away from problems, that we're way up here and we're the visionary and we're coming up with the new ideas. That is not always true, especially in a small business. And the reason is you don't have the team to solve all the other problems. And quite honestly, your job is to solve the problems. It's not necessarily to take the tactical steps, but it is to make the decision on how to solve it. So reframe your thoughts on what your role in the company is, and just know that there's going to be problems over and over and over. They just get bigger and more expensive. But having this mindset is really going to help you succeed and be more prepared and probably not feel so beat down all of the time. But really, like I mentioned a minute ago, the bigger your business, the bigger your problems are going to be. And that's going to be around people or systems or cash flow, leadership, those things, because you are up-leveling and you're at a new level where you don't know what those problems are. You've never had to solve those problems. So it's going to become new things. And remember too that with that, these problems are going to be bigger. There are going to be more risk, but there's also going to be more reward. And that's why it's important to make sure that you're making decisions to solve these problems off of accurate data or off of systems, off of some sort of framework. And we'll talk about that in a minute, actually. But the most important is that you're not avoiding problems. That is what sinks a business, when you are ignoring things or you're putting them to the back burner because you just don't have the energy, or maybe you don't have the time, and you keep putting something off and you're avoiding it. This is what is going to cause your business to fail. When you hit things head on, it's really about becoming resilient and skilled at solving problems. So reframe your thoughts around the problems that you're experiencing as you're growing your business. Then I want you to remember that each problem that we're solving is going to build resilience, and it is going to build wisdom. That's why when you're starting out in business, like, you don't know all of the things. And the reason is you haven't put in the reps to become the expert. So, of course, you're going to have problems that you don't know how to solve. And, just like I mentioned resilience, we talked about that, I think, in the very first episode, and we talked about the smartest CEOs and what they're doing to be successful. One of those items was building resilience. And that simply comes from doing and failing. I know that's a scary word and no one wants to talk about failure, but failure is how we learn, and it's how we get better. It's how we get more successful. So don't be afraid of making decisions that are going to solve some of these problems. The next thing is just recognizing that the more decisions that you make, it means that you're getting better at spotting issues, or you're becoming more confident and you're not as uncertain. Now, as I say that, it is completely okay to feel uncertain, because like I mentioned a minute ago, like you're at a level that you've never been at before. Of course there's going to be uncertainty. You've never been at this level before. Like, how are you supposed to know without being there? So I want you to kind of try and get comfortable with the uncertainty and knowing that that's okay. What is not okay is for us to ignore it. So when you're feeling uncertain about making a decision, that's okay. And know that. Just don't ignore it. The truth is really that if you don't want to solve problems all day, not all day, I shouldn't say that, but if you don't want to solve problems, you don't want that to be your role, then you don't need to grow your business, because growing your business is solving more valuable problems. The goal, though, is not necessarily ease in a business. It is mastery. How can we master the process of problem solving, or how can we master the process of decision making? And then every day we're just getting a little bit better. I think sometimes business can feel overwhelming because we think we need to know all of these things, or we think we're not where we need to be. But really, you need to ask yourself, am I getting better, or is the business getting better every single day? And if the answer is yes, you are doing a great job. If the answer is no, you're probably still doing a great job, because we're definitely going to have days where it's not getting better. But overall, you need to be making decisions that are helping you get better a little bit every single day. So how do we get better at solving problems? I really think it just starts with creating a space to think, so you can stop reacting to everything and you can start being more strategic. The problem is, though, like when we're growing our business, our calendar is jam-packed already. We need to be in a million places. How can you really fit something else in? This is going to loop right back to our episode on time management. Definitely take a listen to that if you haven't already, and make sure that you're making time on your calendar for the most important things. It also starts with having a decision-making framework. I'm a huge fan of frameworks, blueprints, system, processes, whatever you want to call them. Those things are what makes our lives easier and repeatable. So we want to see what kind of decision-making framework we can build, because all that means is we're going to develop a system around how we make better decisions. This is usually a framework that kind of helps you lay out what is the real issue here, what are our potential solutions, what are the pros and cons of each one, and then what's our next best step. There's a couple that I follow and I really love. One is by Dan Sullivan, who is the founder of Strategic Coach, which is a fantastic program. But he has something called the impact filter, and it's just a really clear framework on making a decision. By answering all of these questions on one sheet of paper, it helps get our thoughts and our data and everything onto one sheet of paper. And then you can pull that together on what is our next best step. So I highly recommend checking that out if you don't already have a framework or system in place. I think here it's also really important to mention the importance of building a trusted circle for feedback and for challenge, whether that's a business coach or an advisor, someone like Align CPA. That is what we do with advising our clients. It might also be a team member or another leader in your business, but making sure that you have that trusted circle that you can bounce ideas off of, or you can bounce thoughts off of, and you know that they're going to give you feedback that is relevant and valuable to you and how you operate. Your tactical tip for this episode is I think it would be really important for you to build out a problem-solving playbook. And whether that's building out your own framework or using someone else's, I mentioned Dan Sullivan. I think Layla Hormozi probably has a really great one as well. Or building something that's going to help you in your business, and it's going to, what's best for the business already. So just having that playbook or that process is going to help you feel more confident in decisions. And it's not only about confidence, it's also about speed. Because remember from our first episode, again, our smartest CEOs, it is about speed of making decisions. You become resilient from making decisions, but you also start to make faster decisions. Because that way, if you do get a decision wrong and you fail at something, it's fine because you're making another decision immediately after that, and you're not just continuing to fail. So remember that we're building resilience, we're building speed, and we also want to reflect back so that we can build confidence. I want you to build into your CEO reflection time, which you do at the end of the quarter. Build that into there and say, okay, what big decisions did I make over this last quarter? How did those work out? How could I have made a better decision? Like, what data did I need to have, or what should I have known? What should I have looked for? And really reflect on all of that so that you can build the confidence to say, oh, yes, I did make these decisions and it did turn out well. Or I did make this decision and it didn't, but I made another decision. That's where we're building confidence. So through all of this, we're building resilience. We're building speed. We're building confidence. And that is exactly how we uplevel our business, because we have now upleveled ourselves. So let's wrap it all up and think about that. And I want you to think about, what's the biggest problem that you're facing right now? Are you avoiding it, or are you really just attacking it with full energy? And if you're not, I want you to go after it, especially after listening to this episode. Because remember, the faster that you solve this problem, the more successful you will be. I really just want you to use this episode as a reminder that growth is solving harder problems better and faster. If you want to grow faster, make faster decisions. And if you need help seeing the big picture and really building a plan for solving these problems, that's what we can help you with at Align CPA. So I would love to talk to you. Thanks for joining us today. Thanks for tuning in to Upleveling. If you found value in today's episode, be sure to subscribe and leave a review. It helps more entrepreneurs like you discover the show. Let's keep the conversation going. Connect with us on social media or visit aligncpa.com for resources and updates. Until next time, keep leading, optimizing, and upleveling.